All right, Sarah, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me on, Brad. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this one for a long time, and I know that you are a coach of C-level executives. You've shared the stage with Alex Rodriguez and Ed Mylett, and I've just got I got a lot of questions that I want to bounce off you.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to start with something that I know that you teach on a lot that is near and dear to your heart. And it's really about manifestation, right? I think
Yeah.
we hear this word manifestation, and some of us don't even really know what it means. And most of us certainly don't know how to apply it. So I guess my question to you, I guess, first of all, is what in your life in particular have you manifested?
Oh, wow. We don't have enough time on this show for that list. The short answer to that is I would say a completely new life every 3 to 5 years, the last 15 years.
Okay, so the
And
manifestation is working.
oh, yeah. And to give you just a little bit of perspective, when I started this journey, I started with this dramatic rock bottom moment back in 2008 when I found out my husband at the time had been cheating on me and left me and our three tiny little babies with literally nothing. I didn't have a job, I didn't have income, I didn't have a way to keep the house. And so, started from the bottom is an understatement.
Sure.
And when I started to kind of figure out, okay, how do I pick up my life again? I thought, well, now is as good a time of any to dream of something different because I just never imagined, my life without it being the way that it was. So
Mhm.
that okay, since I don't know what the future holds now, why don't I just make it up? And so that's kind of where it
Love
all
that.
started for me. I just thought, well, this at least gives me a little place to escape that is kind of my happy place. I'll daydream of things going really well, and I'll daydream of someday in my life I'll be able to take my kids on vacation or do these other things. And I was still a single mom who was struggling to put food on the table
Sure.
back at that time. And so all of it just seemed like this ridiculous little fantasy, but I figured it's not hurting anybody and it's making me feel better. So why not? What I didn't expect was that it would start to show up in my life in really pretty much the exact ways that I had been daydreaming about it. So it took about a year and a half from the time that he left to the time where my very first future board, which was just, I'd literally gone on Google and Googled all the images I was kind of daydreaming about because I was in this little cube, was in inside sales, calling all day. And I thought, I want something nice to look at. Something that, like that was literally my only motivation for it. I just thought, it sucks hearing no all day as a salesperson. So I'm just going to plaster my walls with, this fantasy life I'm building and I'll call them goals or whatever. I was,
I love it.
um, but when the very first one manifested and it manifested almost exactly like right off my board, that's when I knew. I was like, wait a second. I never actually thought this was going to happen.
What was that one, if you don't mind me
Yeah,
asking?
that first one was New York City. So, right in the center of my very first board, I had a picture of Times Square and I had written on, like, right above it, New York City, baby. And I was actually packing my desk for a trip to New York with our whole team. And it was my first kind of business trip. After I was like starting my life over and working my way up the ladder a little bit. And I remember standing in Times Square like a couple days later and just thinking like,
How
oh
cool.
my God, I know I did this. To everyone else, this is going to look like a business trip, but I didn't even have this job when I put that dream up.
Right.
So it was not random to me. I knew that A plus B equaled C. I just wasn't sure how. And so then I just dug in and was like, I'm going to figure this out. And then I'm just going to replicate it. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
I love it. Very cool. So it sounds like at the core of your manifestation process is, I guess, daydreaming. So visualizing, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose, would be another word that you could use for that. And then, of course, the future boards,
Yeah.
as you call it. Would you say those are kind of your two fundamental tools for manifestation?
Yeah, there's several steps to it. I have 9 full steps to my method, but those are two really big ones. And I
Okay.
think anything you've ever accomplished in your life started with a thought or a dream, right? It had
100%.
to have an inception point. And most of us don't pay attention to those inception points anymore. We just let them go. We're just like, well, I don't see how that's going to happen. That's great for other people, or maybe somewhere down the line, and we just let it go. If you stop doing that and you really start saying, hey, what if it's okay to say, I want XYZ experience or this in my life, or I want a future that includes these things, or this lifestyle, or these types of experiences, then I'm allowing them to grow seeds. I'm allowing those seeds to kind of take root. And so that is kind of the first step. I have to dream, I have to allow the dream to happen. And the way that we kind of get that seed to take root is through daydreaming. So the more times that we're just bringing it into our consciousness, into our space, thinking about it in ways that make us happy, to just feel like, oh, wouldn't that be fun? And your brain has beautiful capacity to build a movie, this beautiful 3D movie. And so if you allow that to happen, instead of shutting it down, or instead of going directly to stress, or directly to your to-do list, or whatever else we always have going on during the
Sure.
day, then you're allowing yourself to create a new future outcome. That's really what it is. It's the start of a future reality. And that would be one of the biggest things that any listener can do today and from here on out, is to start really thinking about, hey, what is it that I want? How would it feel to be in that moment? Like, what selfies would I take?
Right.
And right now, as we record this, the Olympics are going on, and they are a beautiful reminder of what a dream looks like when it's coming true,
For
you know?
sure.
And those athletes have imagined that moment in detail, probably their whole life, but definitely, without a doubt, the last couple of years, leading up to the Olympics. And so none of this happens magically. None of this happens by a nice little wand. It happens through a process, and it happens through actively participating in that process. So the dream piece of it, that element, is crucial, but it's kind of just that foundational element that nothing else can happen without it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Anything that anyone's ever accomplished, any building that's ever been built, it all began right with the seed in
Yep.
someone's minds, and they cultivated it and they gave it the focus and attention it needed, and it grew into reality. So I guess kind of like in like a nuts and bolts type of way, let's say something I'm trying to manifest is owning a house in Newport, Rhode Island. I want to own a beautiful house on the beach, and I want to, start manifesting this actively. From like a visualization point of view, do you advise clients to like actually square off 5 to 10 minutes a day and just close their eyes and see it and feel it? Is that part of the process?
So yeah, it absolutely can be. One of the things that I have my clients do is, if you have a smart watch, or even on your phone,
Hmm.
smartwatch has a great capability called Breathe, right? So it'll buzz you once an hour to breathe. That's a perfect, just kind of built-in reminder to spend a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, just daydream. You don't have to necessarily like super focus on it, close your eyes or anything like that. You just have to be like, ooh, when I get that beach house, what's the first party I'm going to throw?
Right.
So every time you daydream, it's really important that you go to specific moments that you want to live. Instead of, like, a lot of people will go, oh, I'm going to go to Zillow and I'm going to pick out the house I want and I'm going to put that on my thing. Well, now you're asking the universe to give you something that you have very little control over, period, right? And so you're setting a goal that most of that is outside of your control. Maybe the house isn't for sale. Maybe the house will never be for sale, right? So we don't want to do that. Instead, what we want to do is we want to think about, what are the moments and experiences that I want to live? Why do I want the house in the first place?
Right.
Not, not because it's like, oh, a cool thing to have. You literally want it so that you can have barbecues, so that you can have your friends over, so that everyone can go skiing in the summer and, come to the house at Christmas. So those are, if you're going about it from that focus point, even if on paper you have no clue, like that might be the most farthest fetched thing in the world, that part doesn't matter, because you can start calling in. I almost think of it as like a runway for a plane, right? Like, we can start calling in that runway for the opportunity to come through, for the door to open, for the money to arrive in ways that we had never expected, right? But we're building all of that. We're building that runway based on what is in alignment with what makes me happy. That's truly the reason why I want it, as I want those unforgettable moments and experiences, with the people that I love. So if I'm focusing on it from that space, I'm automatically drawing that into my life. And you'll start to see that you'll manifest iterations of that or versions of that all along the way. I mean, maybe the next Airbnb house you get is totally what you've been envisioning, and you have 3 days that literally is your dream come to life.
Yeah.
In this great little segment, right? And what those are the universe saying, like, okay, does this look about right?
I love that.
Does this feel how you want it to feel? Cool. I know I'm on the right track, right? So I love dreaming really big, because then it gives you a nice runway to just manifest all along the way, and each one gets bigger and better than the last, until you finally have the house. But it's never about just getting the thing. And we all know that. We've all got the thing before. We've got the car we wanted, and then we're like, week into
Right.
driving it, we're like, all right, that's cool, whatever.
Sure.
But if you're going about it this way, it's completely different. You're really engaging your emotional desire, which is a super powerful motivator and a powerful manifesting magnet.
Yeah, I think that's a really good tip, to set a reminder, whether it's on your Apple Watch or smartphone, to go off a few times a day and just kind of give yourself some space to dream, about
Yeah.
what you really want, but anchor those daydreams in the experiences that you're going to share with the people that you care about. Not just the beach house for the sake of posting on Instagram, but
Right.
the beach house for the sake of having over your family and your loved ones, and sharing an amazing bonfire in the backyard. Like, those are the things
Yep.
that will really kind of draw them into our lives, as opposed to looking at it from just a purely extrinsic value perspective.
Yeah.
So I just find, all of this manifestation, I just think it's very, it's fascinating. I think that if you really look at the people who have done huge things in this world, they are manifestors. They're
Oh,
visualizers.
absolutely.
They
There's
know
no way
what they
to
want.
accomplish anything without manifesting, because really manifesting is just the realization of a thought and reality. Right.
100%,
And so
100%.
anyone, including every single person listening, has done it. I give the examples, if you've ever been to a wedding, or even more so if you've been a bride specifically. A bride will have gone through every one of the steps that I teach, right? Like, she will imagine the flowers. She will imagine how the dinner table is going to be set when she walks in. Like, every single detail will be imagined. And then she'll take the next step and she'll go find all the pictures that match her imagination, so that she can translate that vision and have someone execute it on it for her, right? But all of that is this process of, first I have an idea, I really start to like the idea, and then I go out and search for validation for that idea through images and through pictures. And as I'm sorting, my brain is going, ooh, ding, ding, that one. Ooh, ding, ding, that one,
Yeah.
right? And it's matching what I've already kind of created in my mind. So on that beach house dream, a great thing to do is go on Pinterest. I know lots of people maybe aren't on Pinterest all day, but it is the largest photography library on the internet. Many people don't understand that and don't know that it is actually a search engine. So if you're using it for that purpose, it's brilliant, because I can go on there and in 5 minutes put activities at a beach house.
Right.
And all of a sudden, my dream that I had is going to start to come alive. There's going to be people in the pictures. There's going to be fun games happening. There's going to be the fire pit I had imagined. All of these things. And my brain is going to be like, yep, that's one, that's one, that's one. And now I'm starting to connect a thought that I by myself created to some realities that are already existing. So that's almost my first level of manifestation. A thought is reality, right? So now I'm starting to kind of compile what I want so I'm customizing what I want my reality to look like. And that's a great way to just get your dreams activated, get them in a fun place, especially for my thinkers out there. There's lots of
Sure.
analytical thinkers out there who have a hard time with this. that's one of the easiest ways to turn it on.
I like that a lot. I didn't realize you could that Pinterest was really a search engine. I can't say I've spent too much time on the platform, but it definitely
Yeah.
sounds like a good way to start with the future boarding. I'm curious, behind you right now, is that a future board? You've got a lot of photos,
Yeah.
collage behind you right now.
Yeah, so this is parts of many future boards that I've had over the years. Most of the things on this backdrop are actually have already manifested. So my current one is in front of me, the one that I look at all day long. But I think the very first one I ever did was 2000, the beginning of 2009. I've now manifested something like 10 boards since then, plus probably. And that's 70% or more of the images on the board before I kind of retire a board.
That's
And
unbelievable. That's really
then just
cool.
upgrade the rest of the pictures. Oh yeah, like it's been crazy. I went from being, a single mom with no income, not $5 to my name, and 3 kids, to taking my kids to 7 countries, flying on private jets, writing 3 best-selling books. Like, yeah,
So
it's been
like
crazy.
so like let's say like the best selling book portion, like what was on that future board pertaining to that, just kind of specifically.
So the very first representation that I ever had on a board was of a woman in a laptop writing.
Okay.
So that was kind of my big version
I love it.
of that dream. That was like the biggest push I could come up with back then. And that got me to start writing a blog, which is the reason I'm here today. I mean, it was really the blog that laid the foundation for everything else. And then my dreams got a little more audacious, and they started showing up in different ways. I think behind me somewhere here, I have a picture of J.K. Rowling
Okay.
of the shot. But so that was, and it's of her kind of signing with a line of autograph seekers behind her. And so just each time it kind of amped up the level
Sure.
of writer I wanted to be, or success I wanted the books to have, etc. Yeah.
I mean, pretty interesting. And I guess the important thing about a future board, and I think it really makes sense. I mean, our input determines our output. So if we're looking at these things all day long, eventually they are going to sink in to our soul, and we're
Yeah.
going to start taking action that's going to bring us towards them. So I guess when you've got a vision board and you create one, and you're, creating how you'd like your relationships to look, and how you'd like your home to look, and your work, your impact, your finances, and your health, of course, and you're creating, a vision board based around all these things, is it like important to put it right in front of you? Is it important to kind of spend time with this vision board every day? Like, how do we really leverage the tool that is the future board?
So absolutely, you should have it in your physical space. I've always had mine in my workspace, because that's where you're at most hours of any given day. And having it in your space for me is typically enough. So this great process happens as you kind of go through the various steps that I teach, and one of those steps is to write it out. So before we kind of find our pictures, we write this story. We call it our life plan story, and we write the story of our future life as if it was today. And I'm kind of just remembering, writing in my journal about how amazing today was, and all these things that have happened, and how my life has changed in all this detail, because writing initiates that dreamer, right? You just have to. If you're going to write a descriptive sentence, you have to force that muscle to work.
Okay.
And so once you've kind of done that in career and relationships and all of your things, then now you have a place to start searching. You're like, ooh, I wrote about that day with my girlfriends at the vineyard in south of France. And ooh, what are girlfriends doing in vineyards in South France, right? You're like, oh, they're doing that. Okay. So then you're starting to pull them together. And really what winds up on your board is this customized version of what your dream future life looks like. And that's why every single person is going to be so different. And that is also why there is no world where you could make that happen from a magazine.
Sure.
So I know that's how people used to do them, in the olden days, but there's just no way that even if I went and spent $1,000 and bought every magazine alive, that I would find my customized dream life in a magazine. And that's one of the reasons why Pinterest is just so effective, because you will absolutely find the exact version of what you're thinking of, and then you'll be like, ooh, but that one's a little better. I'll take the better one.
Right. Yeah.
It like expands your dream almost automatically.
You're like, I'll take the house actually on the bay side as opposed to the ocean side.
Right?
I
Yeah.
didn't think of that.
Like I had never thought about that. But yes, put it in your space. You have to go through the actual process of doing each of those things, because each of those things are laying that foundation that we talked about and getting that seed to really grow and sprout and all of that, like getting it to take almost, if you will. And then it's that sorting process of yes, this, not that, yes, this, not that, that is really solidifying it. And once you have those components and you've gotten to the place where, like, out of 40 pictures of the beach house, this is the moment I want to live, then it's so in there that you can just have it in your space. You don't have to like sit there necessarily and like worship it or anything like
Right.
that. It's just in your space, and you're dropping into it on a daydream when you're walking the dog or when you're doing the dishes or whatever. Now it's so in your space that it's volunteering, it's popping up and being like, oh, that one time when we had that beach house, won't that be great, right? And so that's what you really want to have happen. You want to implant possibility and the things that you want into your life, so that whether you believe in this stuff or not, it's proven, there's tons of science behind the fact that what you tell yourself, your own brain will believe over time, and it won't be able to sort truth and lies anymore. And when you hack that system to go in a direction you want it to go, it's a really powerful thing. So the more it starts believing, yeah, someday we're going to have a beach house, the more the opportunities start coming your way. And many times it will feel kind of magical, like that door just opened and I would have never thought that. So a lot of times we get very hung up before we've even planted our seed in how am I going to make that happen? And we don't see a how, and so we kill the seed.
Sure.
And that is the worst thing that you can do. You have to allow possibility to exist if you ever want a different outcome in the future.
I love it. I love it. And I think, the future boards, vision boards are a pretty interesting thing. A lot of people just kind of scoff at them. They think it's kind of like in the clouds, magic, doesn't actually work. Yeah. But I will say the people that I know in my life who actually have gone through the effort to build these in a thoughtful way wind up accomplishing a lot of the stuff on that board. Like I have a few people in my life who are very big believers in future boards, and they are people that have really done some incredible things over the last 5 years. So, I mean, I've seen it myself that they do work, and I think it makes a lot of sense. If you're looking at it every day, it's adding detail to your dreams. Your dreams are a little bit less up in the sky and whimsical. If you're looking at it every day, you're like, oh, that's exactly what I want. And the more I look at it, the more I'm attracting it to myself, I suppose.
Well, absolutely. And I think what people don't realize is when you take all the fluff, and I hate all the fluff too. That's why I was when I started this and started realizing that I was doing it, I went out and looked. I was like, okay, well, what is this law of attraction thing? And I was like, oh God, I don't resonate with it. Like, what the fuck? Like that just was not in I was like, speak to me in 2-year-old English. Like,
right.
No. So everything that I teach is in 2-year-old English. Like anyone is going to understand it. And they're going to see it show up in every person they admire. I mean, again, the Olympics you hear it almost every single day in every story that they share about an Olympian. Like this morning, I was watching the Today Show and they had one of the gymnastics guys on there. And you could see him right before his routine close his eyes and visualize he walked through his entire routine and told himself he could do it. Those are two of the core base things I teach everyone to do.
Sure.
Like it's not rocket science. It's not woo-woo. It's actual factual ways that people create extraordinary outcomes when everyone else is floating by thinking, all of this is crazy.
Right. Yeah. Listen, you got to create it in your mind first. I mean, I think anyone that's really done special things has some type of manifestation in their story, whether it's, Grant Cardone. I remember hearing he used to write down his goals every single day, multiple times a day until he brought them into fruition. Or Jack Nicklaus, a great golfer, said he never hit a golf shot without visualizing the shot beforehand. Or Jim Carrey, right, wrote himself a check for $1 million, post dated in the future and then eventually he got paid $1 million for Ace Ventura. So I think everyone that's really done some special things has manifested it.
You really can't do it without it. I mean, there's certain components that I studied. So when I started getting some success with it and putting it out on my blog, I just got thousands and hundreds of thousands of people asking like, wait a second, I've done vision boards before and mine are not working like yours. What are you doing that's different? And so I really dug into it and realized there is a formula, there is a recipe for it. And if you follow it, it's going to work for you every time. The timing is never in our control. So that's very important to point out, right? Timing is not in our control, and the exact how isn't in our control, but we have plenty that is. So I'll give a couple of the steps just real quick. So the first one is you got to dream it. So like we've been talking
So
about.
is dream it when you write it out? Is that step one?
So dream it is the exercise that I have my clients do is something called a live list. So similar to a bucket list.
Okay.
And it is just allowing your imagination to start creating experiences that you want to live. That alone is really hard for a lot of people.
Sure.
So that step is really asking you the question, what do I want? And trying to get you past all your blocks and trying to just get you to answer the question.
Right. Okay.
Which is very hard.
Just start thinking in this way, expand the minds a little bit. Okay.
Exactly. What do I want? And then the second one is your block. So immediately the minute you do that, your brain is like, but how? But when?
Sure.
But why me? So you have to know what to do, how to get past that.
Right.
Again,
so get past those limiting beliefs, right? Like there's no way I could be on stage with Ed Mylett, right? Like no chance. Okay.
Exactly. Everyone has them, by the way. Everyone.
For
I've
sure.
never coached anyone that doesn't. And then right after that, you have to learn how to train your thinking to line up with what you just dreamed.
Sure.
Because if you don't, your thinking is going to sabotage you the entire time and you're not going to get anywhere. So as soon as you learn some quick tricks and tips on how to change my thoughts, which then change my beliefs, then I'm automatically going to almost immediately start getting some results.
I love it. And like, by the way, feel free to go through a brief synopsis of all 9 steps because I'm sure the audience wants to know.
No, I'm happy to. So once you learn how to kind of hack your thinking and you got a handle on that, then you're doing all kinds of things like reducing your stress and anxiety.
Sure.
You're changing from an imposter mindset to a confident mindset. Just list goes on and on and on, right? And then right after that, then you learn how to change your words because your words are sabotaging you all day long.
For sure.
And if you can get a handle on that, boom, you're that much further along. So in each of these steps, they layer up like a parfait, right? So I don't just stop daydreaming because now I'm on step 4.
Right.
I'm daydreaming every day, changing my thoughts every day, paying attention to limiting beliefs.
Curious about words as we've as we've touched base here on that step in the journey. Are you a believer in saying affirmations in an out loud, passionate, emotional fashion, or should we just kind of say them internally? What's the best way we can leverage affirmations?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge believer in affirmations. Like, period, point blank, they are the fastest way to change what you believe to be true about yourself.
Sure.
Like, just, it is. Like, and it's 5 minutes a day. It's free. I don't understand for the life of me why the whole world isn't doing it. Like, what is it? Where's the harm? I don't know.
Right.
That's usually where my brain goes to. Like, if there's no harm in this, why wouldn't I lean in? I have nothing to lose, right? So I challenge everyone listening to this. You have nothing to lose. I don't care if you believe it or not. You don't have to. That's not part of the equation. Just do it and
Right.
see what happens. And so I have all of my clients write down 25 positive I am statements that counteract 25 negative beliefs, right? So if I have quote unquote imposter syndrome, I want to say, I am an expert. I am confident. I am excellent at what I do.
Sure. Right? So these are like character-based affirmations. Like, I am courageous. I've got great work ethic. It's not necessarily, I own a beach house in Newport.
Correct. It is really all about how I personally create the next version of myself.
Okay.
Because I need to be working on that as I'm calling in all these beautiful, amazing things. Otherwise, guess what? I'm going to sabotage them all, or I'm going to blow them up when I get them, right? If I have not transitioned into a version of myself who is ready for success,
right,
who is at that level, who can hang with the people breathing high air, I'm going to fall on my face and wreck the whole thing, right? So I really have to do that internal work on what I believe, because I'm not going to get the outcomes I want if I don't. So that whole list is all about, who am I becoming? Who do I want to be? What do I wish I believed about myself, about my life, about, who I am, about how people treat me or see me. So that's kind of a good a good berry list. And then I want to say that out loud to myself every day, twice a day
I
in the
love it.
mirror.
So that read that list through twice a day in the mirror. So kind of
In the mirror.
looking yourself in the eye. I'm assuming
Absolutely.
that's an important part of the equation there.
It's a huge part of it. It'll feel really silly the first couple times that you do it, but there is so much power in it because for most people, it is the first time you've ever heard your voice say to your own eyes, which is you wind up getting the same feeling you would if you were having eye contact with another person.
Sure.
So it's that same kind of intimate feeling that you are all the things you wish you were.
Yeah. I like that a
People don't
lot.
go around telling themselves all day long they are the things they wish they were. They tell themselves they are 10 times worse than anything they actually are.
Right. That little voice
You
inside
know?
for
Yeah.
sure. That
So there's so much power in it.
I love that, and just to kind of dive a little bit deeper, because I think affirmations are something that almost everyone listening is going to be very interested in. I know it's something I've always been fascinated with, and my practice kind of comes and goes. I'll do them for a couple months, and then I'll kind of forget about them. But I think that this conversation has kind of reinvigorated my love for affirmations, and I've never done them looking in the mirror, so I'm kind of curious as to see what that
So
experience is
powerful.
like. And does it matter if we say them with emotion?
Absolutely. I think the first couple times you do them, so I have my clients do them morning and night for 30 days. Usually that first week, you're just trying to get through the
Right.
list. Because remember, everything on there is everything you do not believe about yourself.
Sure.
So a lot of them can be really emotional. They can be really sticky. They can be, you can tell right away where some of your blocks are. Because if you can't look in the mirror and be like, I am beautiful, which I couldn't for years. And then when I finally could, I was like, wow, I can because now I feel it. Right. So the beautiful thing will start to happen is it's this subconscious, like amazing effect that happens where you become what you're saying.
How cool.
And so over time, and sometimes it'll be only a couple weeks, over time you'll be like, oh, come on, girl, of course I'm beautiful. Like you'll go from this, like I could not say it without looking at my feet to embodying it, right? And feeling it. And some will come easier than others and some will come faster than others, but you will know because at a certain point you're like, I don't need that anymore. That literally is part of my DNA.
Very,
And
very cool.
that is so incredible when you think about it, that you can take something that you completely never thought described you, and a couple months later, it is how you show up in the world, it is how you act, and it is how people treat you.
So you've seen like this type of transformation in people just over the course of a month or two, just by reading affirmations in the mirror twice a day.
All the time. I've been coaching this now for, almost 15 years, full time for the last 10. And without a doubt, but here's the thing, most people are not going to do it.
Right. Right.
I mean, out of everyone listening here, we're going to have like 5%ers who's, and that's sad to say. And I hope I hope I'm wrong, but people will do it for a week and then they'll be like, oh man, I totally forgot about that. And a week's gone by. Listen, you get what you give.
Sure.
So if you're going to be half-ass about it, you're not going to get results just like in anything else in life. But if you are going to say, while I brush my teeth morning and night, I'm going to do my affirmations and I'm never not going to do them. And so the beautiful thing that will start to happen is as you become what you're writing, you can drop 5 of those. And then now you have to really think creatively. What's the next thing I want to become? What's the next thing that's sticky? What's the next thing I want to change or up level? And then you add that into the rotation. So it is a way to always be growing versus kind of like hitting plateaus, having a couple years go by and being like, why does everything feel like meh? I don't like feeling like that.
No, I don't like feeling like that either. And I think a regular affirmation routine to kind of like work into your day. And I think, like you said, habit stack it, with brushing your teeth is probably the best time to get yourself in front of the mirror. Just commit to it for 30 days. And maybe if you think it's voodoo at first, so be it, but just commit to it and see what happens over the course of 30 days. And I believe that you are correct. I think people will see an amazing transformation in how they show up in the world if they would just commit to a regular affirmation routine. I like that a lot.
I'll give you a super quick example real quick.
Yeah, no,
So
please go ahead.
Who is kind of struggling to get their head around it. And the reason why it isn't woo is because it affects your decision making,
Right.
and it affects how you actually operate. So let's say all day long, every day, I'm like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. I have so much on my plate. I'm overwhelmed. I'm tired. Yada yada. Right. And then I realize, okay, maybe I should change some of those. Maybe they're not helping me out. So if I put on my list, I am organized, I execute quickly, I'm really proud of how I show up, or whatever. Now, in that moment where I would normally let the quote unquote overwhelm make me avoid the thing I'm about or should be doing, my brain is starting to auto pop up the I am statements that I've been saying for the last week and a half. And I'm saying, but I execute quickly, but I execute quickly, but I execute quickly. And all of a sudden you're like, ugh, damn affirmations.
Right.
Okay. So in these moments, you're starting to now see all the choice points you had. And they will both start flashing at you. And you're like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to what I was always doing? Or am I now going to do the thing that proves that I execute quickly? And that's how it shows up in a real world way. And that can happen so fast. I mean, if you're on it, that could be happening in a couple days. And all of a sudden, now you're starting to lay a new track for I execute quickly, because you executed twice this week when it popped up. And boom, you're starting to totally change a behavior
Right.
and a belief system. And you get 6 months down the road and you're like, please execute quickly.
I love it. Right. Because then it's not just words. It's not just affirmations. Then you've got real life proof that you do execute quickly. And I think right, the original affirmation is the seed, but the daily practice is cultivating that seed so that it can grow and so that it can flourish and embed itself in your subconscious so that you really believe it. Really awesome stuff there, Sarah. And curious as we kind of move down the steps here, I want to keep going. Yeah. So we've changed our words. What is the next step?
Yeah. So after that, then we want to write it all down. So that is the life plan story is part of writing that down. You just put yourself 5 years into the future when you're living a total fantasy life and you want to go there, like tell your brain to shut up. Yeah. Trying to so you're going there to fantasy everything, fantasy relationships, fantasy job, fantasy vacations, just all of it. Right. And you're writing it down from a space of gratitude as if that was the day you just lived. So that's part of it. And then the other part of it is something I call benchmarks. So instead of writing goals, we're now looking like, okay, if in 5 years I'm living the life I really dream of, what are 5 things that would have to happen before I get to that point?
Okay.
And that really helps you kind of reverse engineer it to say, well, I could do X, Y, Z.
Sure.
And once you come up with those benchmarks, now the plan starts to shift together where you're like, wow, there's a lot that's in my power to get me there. Even though when I started this whole thing, I thought, all this is fantasy crazy land, right? But now I'm starting to see, okay, there's a path. Then our next one is we go find all the pictures to match. So that one is called See It. And then after that, we have Do It. And Do It is all about, okay, now that I have those benchmarks set, now I know what I want in every area of my life. What are 3 things that I can do this week that starts getting me moving in the direction of my dream?
I love that.
And they can be small things. It doesn't matter. And that's a really great way for someone who typically, especially dreamers, a lot of times we get really overwhelmed. We get excited about the dream, but then the chasm in between seems just unsurmountable.
Sure.
But if you do it in this way, where it's like, I'm just looking at this week. What can I do this week that gets me in the shape that I want to get in my beautiful body that I have in 5 years or whatever those dreams are, right?
Sure.
Or that marathon that I just finished running 5 years from now. Okay, I could go walk the dog for 2 more blocks than I did today.
Right.
So they don't have to be huge things, but all of those are steps in building that runway and taking that rocket ship.
I love it. So what could I do this week to get me towards that first benchmark that's going to get me towards that 5-year vision for my life? And what a beautiful process for transformation that you've created there. I'm really inspired by that. That's awesome stuff, Sarah.
And it just gives you so much power.
For sure.
Right? I'm not sitting around waiting for something good to happen to me. Oh my God. I spent so much of my life in that zone and it sucks.
It does.
It doesn't feel good.
It does.
I would way rather actively be creating it, even if it's one piece at a time. At least I know I'm doing my part. And then the the beautiful piece about it is manifesting is that last 25%. It is the magic sauce that is going to give you the right opportunity at the right time when you're ready.
I love it.
But you got to do these other things to get ready.
Yeah.
And that's the really important part. And then the last one is believe it. So you don't have to convince yourself to believe anything. This whole process will do it all automatically for you. But you do have to continue to believe in it when you get tried.
Sure.
And you will be tried, trust and believe. Anyone who's ever done anything extraordinary has a million failure stories or a million obstacles that they overcame to get to where they wanted. And it's just part of the process. There's no getting around it, there's no fast tracking it, but there is a process to it that helps you shorten it, learn the lessons quickly and as efficiently as you can to get to the other side. And then take that knowledge to expedite your growth on when you get to the other side. And then the last part is live it, which is how do I continue to grow everything that I've just done for the rest of my life?
Great stuff there. Great stuff. And just quick question about when you write out your life, I'm curious, and then you convert it to the future board. Do you have your clients go into like just like the written portion and read that out loud or read that? Or once it's converted to the future board, we kind of just lean on the future board?
So I love writing my life plan story. I write mine probably multiple times a year. It's a great thing I carry a journal with me. So it's a great thing to write while you're on a plane.
Sure.
Or when you're on vacation, you want to be like in a good space. Even if you're at home, light some candles, like get in a good mind space. It's definitely the maximum your dreams have gone. Up to that point, you're really trying to push and access the best version of those dreams and with the most detail. But in that process, you are layering that into your subconscious.
Sure.
So every time you write it, you're getting a huge benefit.
And would
So
you say
the more that you
freehand writing more powerful than typing it out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I do not allow any of my clients to type anything.
I feel that.
Because again, we're trying to get this program, we're really working on programming our subconscious and our actions and our habits, right? And to do that, we need to turn on parts of our brain that are on autopilot or aren't being used at all. So the more times I'm kind of digging a little bit deeper, the easier that track sets. And just the easier all of it's going to come. So like, I'm always like, why wouldn't I do the thing that is going to give me the fastest results, So for sure, it's a completely different part of your brain that happens when you're handwriting.
I love it.
And it's a big part of the process.
What an amazing process that you just detailed there. Sarah Centrella, thank you so much for being on the show today. This was a genuinely fascinating conversation about manifestation, and you are clearly the go-to person. If anyone out there is trying to manifest their dreams, I would go get in contact with Sarah immediately. Where can everyone, keep up with you and follow you and see all your new content?
So you can go to sarahcentrella.com. You will find everything there, including ways to work with me. I have a tour coming up where I'm going to teach this in some workshops. So I have a couple stops up there. Also my books and workbooks and just everything. And there's some really incredible freebies on there. I'm not one of those, it's really important for me to give content as I did today, like meat. So if you grab any of the freebies, you're going to just get a ton of knowledge that is all customizable to you, because that's the only way any of this works. So, and Instagram, Sarah Centrella as well.
There it is, guys. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. This was amazing. And everyone out there, this has been Persistence Playbook, and we will catch you on the other side.